The morning was cold and gray, with a light drizzle falling from the sky. Lily wrapped her scarf tightly around her neck as she walked through the quiet cemetery. The air smelled of wet grass and earth, and the only sound was the soft crunch of her boots on the gravel path. She hadn't been here in 5 years, not since the day they buried her older brother Daniel. Lily's heart felt heavy as she approached the familiar grave. The headstone was simple, with Daniel's name and the dates of his short life carved into the stone. She knelt down, brushing away a few fallen leaves that had gathered on the surface. Her fingers trembled as she traced the letters of his name. "Hey, Danny," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I'm sorry it's been so long. I didn't know how to come back here." Tears welled up in her eyes as memories flooded her mind. Daniel had been her protector, her best friend, her everything. When he died in a car accident, a part of Lily died with him. She had spent the last 5 years running from the pain, burying herself in work and avoiding anything that reminded her of him. But today, something had called her back. As she sat there, lost in her thoughts, she noticed something strange. A small folded piece of paper was tucked under a corner of the headstone. It was weathered and yellowed, as if it had been there for a while. Lily's heart skipped a beat as she reached for it. She unfolded the paper carefully, her hands shaking. It was a letter, written in Daniel's handwriting. The words were faded, but she could still make them out. "If you're reading this, Lily, it means you finally came back. I knew you would. There's so much I need to tell you." Lily's breath caught in her throat. How was this possible? Who had left this letter here? And why did it feel like Daniel was speaking to her from beyond the grave? Lily's hands trembled as she held the letter, her eyes scanning the words over and over. The handwriting was unmistakably Daniel's. She would recognize it anywhere. But how could this be? He had been gone for 5 years. Who could have placed this here, and why now? The drizzle turned into a steady rain, but Lily barely noticed. She sat cross-legged on the damp grass, clutching the letter as if it were the most precious thing in the world. Her heart raced as she continued reading. "I know you've been hurting, Lily. I've watched you from wherever I am now, and I hate seeing you so lost. I need you to know something. Something I never got the chance to tell you before I left. It's about the night of the accident." Lily's breath hitched. The night of the accident was a blur in her memory. A painful haze of flashing lights, sirens, and the crushing weight of grief. She had always blamed herself for what happened. If only she hadn't asked Daniel to pick her up that night, if only she hadn't been so careless. The letter continued. "It wasn't your fault, Lily. Not even a little bit. I need you to understand that. There's more to the story, but I can't explain it all here. You'll need to find the rest of the answers on your own. Start with Mom and Dad. They know more than they've ever told you. And Lily, I'm proud of you. Always have been, always will be." Tears streamed down Lily's face, mixing with the rain. She felt a strange mix of emotions, relief, confusion, and a flicker of hope. For the first time in years, she felt like Daniel was still with her, guiding her. She folded the letter carefully and tucked it into her coat pocket. Her mind raced with questions. What did Daniel mean about her parents knowing more? What had they been hiding from her all these years? And why had they never mentioned this letter? Lily stood up, her legs stiff from sitting on the cold ground. She took one last look at Daniel's grave, her heart aching, but also filled with a newfound determination. She had to find out the truth, no matter how painful it might be. The drive back to her parents' house felt longer than usual. Lily's mind was a whirlwind of emotions. Grief, curiosity, and a simmering anger she hadn't realized she'd been carrying. Why had her parents kept secrets from her? What could they possibly know about Daniel's accident that they hadn't shared? When she pulled into the driveway, she noticed her mother's car parked outside. Good. She needed answers, and she needed them now. Lily took a deep breath, steadying herself before stepping out of the car and walking up to the front door. Her mother, Margaret, opened the door before Lily could even knock. She looked surprised to see her daughter standing there, soaked from the rain and with a determined look in her eyes. "Lily, what are you doing here? Is everything okay?" Margaret asked, her voice tinged with concern. "No, Mom, everything is not okay," Lily replied, stepping inside. "I went to Daniel's grave today, and I found something." Margaret's face paled. "What do you mean?" Lily pulled the letter from her pocket and held it out. This. A letter from Daniel. He said there's more to the story of his accident. He said you and Dad know things you've never told me. What is going on, Mom? Margaret's hands shook as she took the letter. She read it slowly, her eyes filling with tears. When she finished, she looked up at Lily, her expression a mix of guilt and sorrow. I didn't know about this letter, Margaret said softly. But Daniel was right. There are things we never told you. Lily's heart pounded. What things? What are you talking about? Margaret hesitated, then gestured for Lily to sit down. It's a long story, Lily, and it's not an easy one to tell. Lily sat on the edge of the couch, her eyes fixed on her mother. I need to know, Mom. I deserve to know. Margaret took a deep breath, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. The night of the accident, Daniel wasn't just coming to pick you up. He was on his way to meet someone we didn't approve of. Lily frowned. Who? What are you talking about? Her name was Emily, Margaret said, her voice trembling. She was Daniel's girlfriend. But she wasn't a good influence on him. She was involved in things. Dangerous things. We tried to warn him, but he wouldn't listen. Lily's mind raced. She had never heard of Emily before. What kind of dangerous things? Margaret shook her head. We don't know all the details, but we think she was involved with some bad people. The night of the accident, Daniel was on his way to meet her. He never made it. Lily felt a lump form in her throat. Why didn't you tell me any of this? We wanted to protect you, Margaret said, tears streaming down her face. You were so young, and you were already hurting so much. We thought it would be better if you didn't know. Lily stood up, her emotions swirling. Better for who? For me? Or for you? Margaret reached out to her, but Lily stepped back. Lily, please. We were just trying to do what we thought was best. Lily shook her head, her heart breaking all over again. I need some time to think. I'll call you later. Without waiting for a response, she turned and walked out the door, leaving her mother standing there, tears in her eyes. Lily drove aimlessly for a while, her mind spinning with everything her mother had told her. Emily, Daniel's girlfriend. A name she had never heard before, yet someone who had apparently played a significant role in her brother's life, and possibly his death. Who was she? And why had Daniel kept her a secret? Determined to find answers, Lily pulled over and took out her phone. She searched for Emily's name on social media, but it was a common name, and without a last name or any other details, it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Frustrated, she decided to try a different approach. She called her father, Robert, who had always been more level-headed than her mother. He answered on the third ring, his voice calm but concerned. Lily, is everything okay? No, Dad, it's not, Lily said, trying to keep her voice steady. I just talked to Mom. She told me about Emily. Why didn't you ever tell me about her? There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Finally, Robert sighed. I didn't think it was my place to bring it up. Your mother and I agreed it was better to leave the past in the past. But it's not in the past for me, Dad, Lily said, her voice breaking. I need to know the truth. Who is Emily? Where is she now? Please, if you know anything, tell me. Robert hesitated, then said, I don't know much, Lily. All I know is that she moved away shortly after Daniel's accident. I think she lives in the city now, but I don't know her last name or how to find her. Lily's heart sank. The city was a big place, and without more information, finding Emily would be nearly impossible. But she couldn't give up, not now. Thanks, Dad, she said quietly. I'll figure it out. She hung up and sat in her car, staring out at the rain-soaked streets. She needed a plan. If Emily was in the city, maybe someone from Daniel's old life knew how to find her. Lily thought back to Daniel's friends, people she hadn't spoken to in years. One name came to mind. Jake, Daniel's best friend. Lily pulled up Jake's number and hesitated for a moment before dialing. They hadn't spoken since the funeral, and she wasn't sure how he would react. But she had to try. The phone rang twice before Jake answered. Lily? Wow, it's been a while. How are you? I'm okay, Lily said, unsure of how much to share. Listen, I need your help. Do you remember Emily, Daniel's girlfriend? There was a long silence on the other end. Yeah, I remember her, Jake said finally. Why are you asking about her? I need to find her, Lily said. It's important. Do you know where she is? Jake sighed. Last I heard, she was living in the city. She works at a cafe downtown. I don't know the name of it, but I can ask around if you want. That would mean a lot to me, Lily said, relief flooding her voice. Thank you, Jake. No problem, Jake said. I'll let you know if I find anything. Lily hung up, feeling a glimmer of hope. She wasn't sure what she would say to Emily when she found her, but she knew she had to try, for Daniel, for herself. 2 days later, Jake called Lily with the information she needed. Emily was working at a small cafe called the Rustic Bean in the heart of the city. Lily's heart raced as she thanked Jake and hung up. She knew what she had to do. The next morning, Lily drove to the city, her stomach in knots. She had no idea what to expect. Would Emily even want to talk to her? Would she be angry, defensive, or willing to share the truth? Lily rehearsed what she would say over and over in her mind, but nothing felt right. When she arrived at the Rustic Bean, she parked her car and took a deep breath. The cafe was cozy, with warm lighting and the smell of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. Lily scanned the room, her eyes landing on a woman behind the counter. She had long brown hair tied back in a loose braid, and a kind smile as she handed a customer their order. Could that be Emily? Lily approached the counter, her heart pounding. When the woman looked up, their eyes met, and Lily saw a flicker of recognition in her expression. Hi, Lily said, her voice trembling. Are you Emily? The woman's smile faded, replaced by a look of surprise and caution. Yes, that's me. Do I know you? I'm Lily, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel's sister. Emily's face went pale, and she took a step back. Lily, I didn't expect to see you here. I know this is unexpected, Lily said quickly. But I need to talk to you about Daniel, please. Emily hesitated, glancing around the cafe. I'm working right now. I can't just... Please, Lily interrupted, her voice breaking. It's important. Emily studied her for a moment, then nodded. Give me a few minutes. I'll ask my manager if I can take a break. Lily waited at a small table near the window, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. When Emily finally joined her, she was carrying 2 cups of coffee. She set one down in front of Lily and sat across from her, her expression guarded. I didn't know what you liked, so I just made you a latte, Emily said softly. Thank you, Lily said, though she didn't touch the coffee. She took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. I found a letter from Daniel. He said there's more to the story of his accident. He said you might know something. Emily's eyes filled with tears, and she looked down at her hands. I wondered if this day would ever come, she said quietly. I've thought about reaching out to you so many times, but I didn't know how. What happened, Emily? Lily asked, her voice trembling. What aren't you and my parents telling me? Emily took a deep breath, her hands shaking as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. The night of the accident. Daniel wasn't just coming to pick you up. He was coming to tell me something important. He had gotten mixed up with some bad people I was involved with too. He wanted out, and he wanted me to leave with him. But I was scared. I told him I needed more time to think about it. Lily's heart ached as she listened. What happened next? He left my place upset, Emily said, tears streaming down her face. I tried to call him, but he didn't answer. And then I heard about the accident. I always wondered if things would have been different if I had just gone with him that night. Lily felt a lump form in her throat. Why didn't you tell anyone this? Why didn't you come forward? I was scared, Emily admitted. I didn't want to get in trouble, and I didn't think anyone would believe me. Your parents already blame me for what happened. I thought it was better to just disappear. Lily sat in silence, processing everything Emily had said. She felt a mix of emotions, anger, sadness, and a strange sense of relief. Finally, she looked up at Emily and said, "Thank you for telling me the truth." Emily nodded, wiping her tears. "I'm so sorry, Lily. For everything." Lily reached across the table and took Emily's hand. "It's not your fault. And it's not mine either. Daniel made his own choices. But now we can honor his memory by being honest with each other." Emily squeezed Lily's hand, a small smile breaking through her tears. "I'd like that." After their conversation at the cafe, Lily and Emily exchanged phone numbers and promised to stay in touch. For the first time in years, Lily felt a sense of closure, not just about Daniel's death, but about the guilt and pain she had carried for so long. She realized that Daniel's letter had been a gift, a way for him to guide her toward healing. Over the next few weeks, Lily and Emily began to rebuild their lives together. They met regularly, sharing stories about Daniel and slowly piecing together the parts of his life that had been hidden from Lily. Emily introduced Lily to some of Daniel's old friends, people who had known him in ways Lily never had. Through them, Lily learned more about her brother, his dreams, his struggles, and the love he had for the people in his life. One afternoon, Lily invited Emily to her parents' house. It was time to bring everything into the open. Margaret and Robert were hesitant at first, still carrying their own guilt and pain, but they agreed to meet Emily. The reunion was emotional, with tears and apologies on all sides. For the first time, they talked openly about Daniel's accident and the choices that had led to it. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. As the weeks turned into months, Lily noticed a change in herself. The weight she had carried for so long began to lift. She started visiting Daniel's grave more often, not out of guilt but out of love. She would sit by his headstone and tell him about her day, about Emily, and about the life she was slowly rebuilding. It felt like he was still with her, guiding her forward. One sunny afternoon, Lily and Emily decided to visit Daniel's grave together. They brought flowers and sat quietly for a while, the silence between them comfortable and full of unspoken understanding. Finally, Lily broke the silence. "Do you think he's proud of us?" she asked, her voice soft. Emily smiled, her eyes glistening with tears. "I think he's been waiting for this moment, for us to find each other and heal." Lily nodded, feeling a sense of peace she hadn't known in years. "I think you're right." Months passed and Lily's life began to take on a new rhythm. She had reconnected with her parents, and though their relationship was still healing, it was stronger than it had been in years. Emily had become a close friend, someone Lily could rely on when the weight of her grief felt too heavy to carry alone. Together they had created a support system that honored Daniel's memory in the most meaningful way. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Lily sat on her porch with a cup of tea, reflecting on everything that had happened. She thought about the letter that had started it all, the words Daniel had left for her, guiding her toward the truth. She realized that his love for her had never faded, even in death. He had always been looking out for her, just as he had in life. Her phone buzzed, and she saw a message from Emily. "Thinking of you? Let's visit Danny this weekend?" Lily smiled and typed back, "I'd like that." As she set her phone down, she felt a warmth in her chest, a sense of gratitude for the journey she had been on. It hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. She had faced her pain, confronted her past, and found a way to move forward. And through it all, she had discovered the power of human connection, the way it could heal even the deepest wounds. The next morning, Lily woke up with a sense of purpose. She decided to start a small project in Daniel's memory, a community garden where people could come together to grow flowers, vegetables, and friendships. She knew it was something Daniel would have loved, a way to bring people together and create something beautiful. When she shared the idea with Emily and her parents, they immediately offered their support. Together they began planning the garden, choosing a spot near the cemetery where Daniel was buried. It felt like the perfect way to honor his life and the lessons he had taught them. As the first seeds were planted in the garden, Lily stood back and watched, her heart full. She knew there would still be hard days ahead, but she also knew she wasn't alone. She had her family, her friends, and the memory of her brother to guide her. And as the sun shone down on the freshly turned soil, Lily felt a sense of hope she hadn't known in years. She knew that Daniel was with her, smiling down from wherever he was, proud of the woman she had become.
Subscribe and press the bell icon so that you never miss the amazing video.